Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. I'm gonna say that worked.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah, so welcome back to our 13th installment of 6 Months Apart. And
I'm lucky.
so we've got a very special episode this week. So if any of you have been paying attention to the news in the slightest, you will know that there has been a lot going on throughout, not just America, but the entire world in this past week.
No shit.
So we decided to dedicate this entire episode to discussing these events and discussing the Black Lives Matter movement. And so we have the usual cast of characters here today, Rowan, Lyle, Xander, and Connor. But today we're going to take a little bit of a back seat and let some guests kind of drive the conversation and discuss what they feel that they have to discuss and share their thoughts on the recent events and just give us some insight and discuss everything. So we've got Eliza.
Hey.
We got Carmela.
Hello.
And Simran.
Hello, everyone.
So they're going to be talking, and then later on, another person, Mia, will be joining a little bit after this. So I guess we can just open it up to you guys. Do you have any initial thoughts that you want to talk about? Anything that really just jumps out that you have to start with?
If you disagree with us and you debate us in the comments, I'd love to see it because I think they're funny to read.
Do we have a comment section?
This goes up on YouTube, yeah.
Okay.
So technically yes, but like in reality no.
We've also never gotten a single comment. I would just like to throw that out there.
Technically we have a comment section. There is no comments, but technically.
Whoever wants to be the first comment on our channel, hey, that would be fun,
Make it funny.
Yeah.
I just go comment. I'm like, you're all wrong.
Oh no.
Yeah.
All lives matter.
Oh God.
Oh boy. Let's get into that.
Yeah.
Let's start off with that.
Actually, that's actually a good point to start. So, because I think, actually, someone said this to me today in TOK. That's not a joke.
Wait.
Our theory knowledge class. We split up into a few groups, Google Hangouts, and I went into another group by mistake, and they were doing some sort of debate, and someone, you can all guess who it is, we're all in the same class, he goes, you know what, no, because you know why, because all lives matter. I was like, I'm ending this call. I just ended the call.
Nope, not today. I don't have to
That's
do this
honestly
today.
the move, though. Because, like, literally, okay, the thing is, I'm so liberal with my block button on every social media for that exact reason. Like, I literally I don't have time. I don't have time for that shit.
Yeah. I've more taken I like to argue with people. I like to argue with people until they block me because they can't come up with arguments. And I kind of took it from my brother's best friend because he specifically seeks out accounts that disagree with him and then debate them until they block him in their comment sections. And he's like, that's what he does. He studies, he's taking classes on like the different wars that America's been involved in and a bunch of history classes. So he's like a really smart kid. So he's good at arguing, and it's very entertaining to see him do that. Just to hone in on someone.
I agree. I love debate. I think debate it's one of the most satisfying things for me, and I think the tactic that I've learned, first of all, it's just the person that I am, and it's a tactic I've learned. The nicer you are, the angrier they get.
Yeah.
It's so really true. Hilarious. It's really hilarious to watch. Go ahead, sorry.
No, keep going. I just agree with you. It's fun to be really nice to the point where it's technically belittling them, but they can't point it out specifically because you're just being nice.
Because you know what?
You don't get it. You probably haven't studied this a lot. Like,
even then, like I'm not really afraid to debate people because my opinions come from facts and my opinions come from real statistics and real people in this case. And so I texted someone today who I know to be a Trump supporter, and we can get into that too. I texted them super respectfully because it's just, as much as I disagree with people, as much as I maybe want to yell at them for their beliefs, I still think they should be able to speak, and then I can cut them down with my facts and have them change their
right, yeah.
Oh no, so I texted this person today. I was like, hey, I know you're a Trump supporter, and if you wanted to, I can give you a call, like a 10-minute call later today. I just want to hear your thoughts. I just want to discuss the issues happening today. And our friend Anne Marie, I said Anne Marie wanted to join us too, but she couldn't. And the person, I think he texted me like 2 hours later. He was like, Mal, nah, I have work. Good idea though. It was like, I can share the text with you guys all. I put it on a mini story, but I'll share it with you guys. And I was, oh my god, I was dying. I was like, okay. I'm sure you have work.
What a strong excuse he's got there.
Yeah. Mal, no work.
Yeah.
No, not even no,
It's also-
like NaH.
Oh,
I said
God.
nah. Like, all right.
It's interesting to me because something I've noticed is that the reason people get so angry when you're nice to them in an argument is because when you're happy and when you feel good about yourself, you're on the offensive. They have to defend themselves against you. And when people hate when you're arguing and the other person is on the offense, like, so if you're happy, you're on the offense, and people hate that.
Yeah. And also, I think that not just exclusive to Trump supporters, but a lot of the people I have debates like this about don't really know their facts, so their favorite thing to go for is, oh, you're being over emotional, just relax. And they can't make that claim against you if you're being casual, and it pisses them off.
Yeah.
That's true.
There a lot of argument, like people while they're debating are just trying to like get you angry because then they win by default, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So, like, if you
because
just,
they
like-
can't argue.
And
with
then
it.
once they realize it's not working, they get angry. And then
Yeah.
you win by default.
Yeah.
And then anything they've said previously just goes out the window.
Yep.
Yep.
But the one argument that annoys me more than anything is like you just like overreacting.
Yeah.
Like calm down, man. It's like
Chill,
it's
bro.
literally-
It's just a
It's like,
joke.
calm down.
I'm being
How am
sarcastic.
I overreacting to murder? How?
Yeah.
Explain.
Yeah.
I think that's so relevant here because, like, I forget who said it. Someone just said, you're presenting the facts. In this case, there's no, like, opinion to this issue.
Yeah.
This is a humanitarian issue. This is a human rights issue. You don't get to have an opinion on basic human rights.
Yeah.
So when people are, they're like, you didn't do enough research. I'm like, sweetheart, I did more than enough research, and the facts are still the same all across the board.
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys can comment on this too. It's like stunning to me how. Oh my God, Dia's gonna be so proud. The cognitive dissonance.
Like me.
Really, it's true.
Sorry to cut any.
No.
For me personally, like I obviously don't experience it with race because I'm white. But when a lot of times when people talk about LGBT issues, they're always like they come to me like, but like what about insert nonsense statistic here? And like, you didn't research this, you don't know the facts. And I'm like, honey, I live that shit. I live like that every single day. Don't try to tell me this also comes up a lot now, is like, don't try to tell me how I'm supposed to feel about something that impacts me like this.
Yeah.
I don't like when I do get angry because I personally am a very emotional person, and that's just who I am. But when I get angry about stuff like this, people are always like, oh, well, like, why are you so upset? Like, why does this affect you? Like, oh, I don't know, because it affects me personally because I have to live like that every day.
Yeah, like I
can't
want this
turn
to
it
end
off.
so I don't
can't
get
get rid of it.
Yeah.
And it's just like I'm seeing it happen like to other queer folks. I'm seeing it happen to Black people, to other people of color, and it's just so infuriating that other people just don't get it.
Have you guys had? I know it was Eliza or Carmela. You had to block a few people. Have you guys been like calling people out or having to talk to your friends about being silent?
I haven't like directly called anyone out. I've definitely vague posted on my Instagram story though.
So for me, I come from like a family of hippies. Like I'm not kidding, they got married barefoot. Like they're really liberal, but my mom was like like outlier. You know, she rebelled from her family. My grandfather was the chief of police for most of his life. He was in the Navy, and my uncle is still currently a cop, and then the other one owns more guns than I've ever seen, and he's a hunter. So they claim to be liberal, but you know, they're white moderate liberals. They're liberal really by name only. So I haven't talked to them personally just because I haven't had any family meetups, obviously, because of COVID, and I just haven't really talked to them. But my mom, even though she's really, really liberal, is having a really hard time with the mindset of, like, you know, defunding the police, retraining the police, firing a lot of the police, because that's her family. And I'm trying to explain to her that, like, you can't, like, she's like, oh, my uncle's name is Todd, he's the cop. She's like, Todd was always the nicest one of us. Like, I don't think that he should be, like, I don't think he's a bad person. And I'm like, he might not be a bad person, but his job is to kill people and to racially profile people. That's his job. You can't be the nicest person out of the bunch when that's your job.
Yeah.
And that's like a fight I've been in with her for a while.
I know the opposition on that, I totally understand it, because the fierceness that, you know, the police system, the fierceness that the argument against them, that the degree of it is pretty mind-boggling to people, you know, who have cops in their families, who appreciate the idea of protection. Yeah. I think, you know, they have to understand that it's not, at least in my case, I don't think people at all are black and white. Some people are, you know, there's a spectrum, people are on opposite ends of it, but in a group that big, you know, every police in the nation, they're not all bad. They're part of a corrupt system, of a broken system.
Right. It's like how...
Yeah.
Oh,
the
sorry.
The point is that I don't condone, you know, I don't want them to lose their job. I don't want them to be attacked for being a cop. That when you're a clearly bad cop, there's a difference. The point is that they need to be retrained. They need to be evaluated. They need to have psychiatric evaluations, and they need to make sure that their job of protecting people is being done correctly.
So in the U.S., it does not take a lot of time to become a cop, and you don't need a degree for it. So it becomes a backup career for a lot of people who don't really care about enforcing just laws. Yeah. But if you look at a place like Germany has in all 16 of their states, they have a 3-year-long training program. They very rarely reach for their weaponry and end up shooting, because they go through constant, like, basically like role-playing situations where they're like, if you're in this situation, you don't want to kill anybody, you just want to arrest people, so this is what you need to do to make sure nobody dies. We don't have that kind of law or that kind of training. It's weird to think that cops aren't actually trained to go in a situation to de-escalate. Their job is to make sure that, like, a bunch of people don't get hurt. But in the process, they're hurting a lot of people. Yeah. So I agree. I think that, like, when people talk about ACAB, they're not talking about how all cops are, like, bad people. It's about being part of a corrupt system. The B is for bastard, which is bastardize. It basically means to corrupt. So whether you agree with that or not, like, you use that acronym or not, the cops are, like, genuinely trained to have kind of corrupt beliefs because they need to fill up prisons. That's what they do. And that the priority needs to be shifted away from that back to what they were supposed to be doing, which is protecting the people. We obviously need that role filled, but they're not doing it anymore.
Yeah, another thing that, like, ties into that I think is kind of bizarre, and I actually didn't know this up until recently, is that cops aren't trained for the amount that I personally and a lot of other people believe that they should be on having to deal with people that are mentally ill. Yeah. Like, a lot of symptoms of autism are also, like, very similar to what's usually seen as suspicious body language.
Yeah.
And so police react to that because they see it and they recognize it as suspicious body language and haven't been trained to, like, take into account that person could have autism or any other mental illness that makes you, like, fidget and, like, touch your face a lot.
Yeah,
I think it's really important that, like, not only are they trained more to de-escalate, but in that same vein, like, are trained to look for symptoms of mental illness so they don't hurt people that are innocent.
In the Black Lives Matter movement, they're talking about a lot of cases that from recent years that shouldn't have ended the way they are ended because there's so much pressure for those cases to be reopened and properly looked at that people keep bringing them up. And a lot of them are cases where in families of color, specifically Black families, a family member will call 911 for help for one of their family members who's having some kind of meltdown linked to a mental illness, and they'll end up killing that person. Yeah. Which is so not the way it needs to happen, because those people are dangerous. They're not dangerous. They're just not. It's heartbreaking, Eliza. It's really upsetting because, like, I have a nephew who's got, he's white, so he'll have significantly less trouble with the police, but it's just like, it bothers me that, like, I know he's the sweetest kid in the world and I know he'd never hurt anyone. It bothers me that, like, body language of his, like, he has to toss his head because he doesn't have, his eyes don't work right, so if he wants to look at something, he has to toss his head to look at it because his eyes will just go any which way. It bothers me that language like that's pretty normal to me because I see it a lot, could be misconstrued as a threat when he's not threatening.
Yeah. It's like, some people might say, well, these are special cases. But when your profession is to protect the people, you need to be aware and familiar with every single special case. Because it's not enough for you to say, it was a mistake or even it was an accident. I just saw something else. It's the same in the medical profession.
Yes.
Dealing with lives here. Yeah. If you're a doctor, as soon as you make a medical mistake, it's two options. You either go through retraining if it's minor, or you get your license taken away and you can't practice again.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. You're a policeman or policewoman. You need to be educated. Your first resort cannot be pulling out a gun. Yeah. It's not how criminal justice should work.
Yeah, their knee-jerk reaction should not be to shoot someone when their job is to protect people.
Yeah.
You brought up the European statistics, Eliza. You're so right. The U.S. has far more. I think it's 10 times the amount of police deaths than not specifically Germany, but European countries. I think they consider, there's a whole other branch that I find really interesting. They consider emotion be far more important than we do, and we should be considering it to be more important. Specifically, empathy. I could write a paper on this. I think empathy is one of the most valuable human traits. I think it's so valuable. I think people need to take the time to learn it. It's a learned skill. I'm so thankful that it's learned through hardship. That's true. It's learned through hardship. I personally didn't learn it through studying it. I did learn it through a hardship, and it's so valuable. If you can understand people, understand situations, we're going to make better decisions.
Yeah, I agree.
If you don't mind my interrupting, so Mia is here now.
Mia!
Hey. Hi, Mia.
Hello.
Hello there.
We are talking about the difference between the American system of justice and the European systems of justice, and how we have a much higher death rate because, death rate isn't cops killing people in situations that get out of hand because they don't have the same amount of training.
It's different.
Hi, yes, sorry, my microphone doesn't work.
All right, I don't know.
It's okay.
You're good.
Any thoughts on that, Mia? Just while we're on the topic, we're actually talking about the difference in the justice system and the role of emotion.
Yeah, the difference in justice systems between European countries, which have a lower violence rate from cops, and America, which doesn't.
Oh, right. Well, we're kind of built on racism, right? Like, that's what the country was founded on, so it doesn't make it okay, but it's part of the reason why it's here.
Right. Yeah. It's something that it hasn't gone away. It's just changed. I heard something. I don't actually personally know the level of truth to this, but someone said, you might have seen this, someone said, if cops were started as a slave patrol in America and that idea never went away, of course we're going to end up like this. And the quote that goes with it is something along the lines of, it's insanity to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result.
It's actually Einstein, yeah.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
My coach uses that a lot when we're screwing up in practice. He'll tell us that we're being insane because we keep doing the thing wrong again.
Yeah.
See, that's interesting because I did not know that. And honestly, I can probably attribute that to the fact that when I changed schools, it happened so perfectly so that I've never been in a history class that actually covered the Civil War.
Oh, wow.
Which is very, very strange because I went to, for elementary school through freshman year, I went to a public school that, history was kind of dubious in, not by, the fact that they left out, certain things on purpose. It just ended up that we, there wasn't, a ton of, confirmation between teachers or something to that effect. So we ended up going over the same thing a lot. And
that sucks.
I was in honors U.S. history at my old public high school my freshman year, and we stopped right before the 1800s, so at the tail end of the Revolutionary War and the creation of America's new government. But we never actually stretched into the Civil War. And then when I came to Sturgis, we weren't, the history class that I was put into had already gone past the Civil War, so I actually never got to learn about it in depth as a high school student, which is really unfortunate because a lot of the things that we're learning in high school classes, especially us going to a charter school in a northern state, which they tend to be more broad with their teachings about or America anyway. But I completely missed it and I never got to learn about it, which is kind of upsetting.
Right, so you've got this whole gap in your knowledge that's hard to fill in because I know that personally you and me are both big fans of history and watch a lot, learn a lot about it online, but there's a certain set of stuff that it's hard to learn outside of school because it's only clumped together by the education program.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I think on the topic of education in school, I feel like our school, at least my sophomore year history class especially, did at least a pretty good job, if not an amazing job, of teaching the whole story, and especially about we had a huge civil rights unit and stuff. I just feel like they did I guess, again, as you said, Carmela, it could be we go to a charter school in the northern state, that could be attributed to it. But I feel like they did a good job of at least covering everything. And
oh, yeah, for sure.
Did you have Miss Eagle?
Yeah, I had Eagle.
I did,
yeah.
I had Miss Landon.
Oh, me too. I love that woman.
Here's the thing. I loved her. Some lessons I didn't really enjoy of hers, but I think her as a person just not.
Yeah, and she spent a lot of time on the human rights stuff, which I think is important. And I think some of the reasons that both teachers were considered so good about those topics was because they were both under 30.
Yeah,
right? They
so.
were both very young.
They're younger teachers, yeah.
And I think it's just sorry to interrupt, but I think it's just a testament to the fact that the education system as a whole is evolving. And so that when they were in high school and when they were in college, they ended up learning the broader spectrum and more niche pieces of information that are now being put back into the high school education system to further educate the new generation of students.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of just the education system, I'm sorry to cut anyone off. I was just thinking the other day, I've had one POC teacher in my entire academic career.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I don't think.
Was in elementary school. My librarian, not even my subject teacher, Miss Jorgensen, was she was Chinese. She might have been Korean.
I don't think my old school had any. Some of the other kids might be able to prove me wrong, but I don't think the
No, I think
private school I went to had any at all.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, and as upsetting as it is to say, I don't think I've ever had a teacher of color. Which, I mean, it makes a little bit of sense because I've lived in two places, and they were both very like majority white areas.
Like the Cape. The Cape is very white.
The Cape is a very white place.
Cape is a white place, man. And like Plymouth, I went to school in Plymouth too, and that I was the only Indian. Nobody really know. I'll get into that. Nobody really knows what Indian is. Like, there's no PF.
Yeah, like it's really strange because I also didn't learn that, like, well, my parents taught me a little bit, but like I didn't really learn that Indian was an incorrect term to refer to Native Americans as until I was in seventh or eighth grade.
And I don't know if you remember this, Eliza. In Miss Lambden's class, he kept referring to them as Indian. I was getting so angry sitting there. He did, and I was.
Honey.
I was sitting there. I told her afterwards, and I was walking in the hallway, and our friend Charlotte, she's the sweetest person ever. Oh my god, she didn't understand why it was the wrong way to say it, and I was explaining it to her, and I just loved the way she thought because she didn't understand, and she, found the strength to ask, and she just absorbed the knowledge and moved on.
Yeah, I think that. So one of the things that I learned that when I was in like the end of middle school, and then I learned recently that the name gypsy is not the term that the Romani people prefer.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of been given to them by other cultures. They are the Romani people. That's what they're called.
And it had a negative connotation for pretty much its entire existence.
Because you say the word gypsy, people are like, oh, pickpockets. And it's like, well, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
I also see it that word specifically associated a lot with World War II, because that is what the Nazi doctors would use to refer to Romani patients. I use that word very loosely, but that's what they use to refer to them. Yeah. And it's like, it's so upsetting hearing the history of a word that you didn't really think terribly of.
Yeah. I was pretty upset about it. Like, not like upset for me because I was upset for them because I had no idea, and I care a lot about history, so I like to think I pay attention. And I'm from a pretty liberal place with a decent education program, and I never heard that my teachers used that. They have no idea.
Yeah, same here.
And also,
I heard about it online, and I was like, wow, I had no clue.
Yeah.
And one of the things is that
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I was just really quick. That also textbooks use it and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not just our teachers. It's not just our teachers and stuff. But you see words like this in textbook. Because and sure, some of them might be out of date, but still they're in official material that teachers use, which is also an issue.
Official documents. I'm doing so much college stuff, and just I'm on so many websites. A lot of websites ask you to specify your race. And so every time I go on, obviously I select Asian American, and Pan-Asian, and I go down, and then there's an option that says Indian American. Let me just say, Christopher Columbus was a piece of shit.
Oh yeah, we're all on the same page with that one.
Yeah.
General, fuck that guy on the whole table.
He arrived here. He arrived in South America. He arrived on the island, and
he was like, Asia.
He looked at people, and he saw that they were brown, and he said, okay, I'm in India. And that name, nobody bothered to correct. Obviously he didn't know. He just thought, little piece of shit.
We also don't like him for other reasons, but...
Other reasons, he's, same story. He's a piece of shit. And people are like, well, it's just a name. And there's the same thing. I can talk about that too. Names are important because it's part of your identity. Calling them American Indian is twice offensive because they have no connection to the nation of India. They have no connection to the country, to the history of India. They're Native Americans, the first American. Indians are their own. I'm not Native American. I'm an Indian girl.
Don't even get me started on those nationality like check boxes on those kind of things. Sometimes they don't even have mixed, and I'm like, I don't know
what do I say? Like
something that bothers me a little bit about those is like a lot of the times it'll be like select your nationality, and then the options will be like white, African American, blah 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 blah. That's not a nationality. This is very petty, but it bothers me because I really, I'm really into linguistics and I pay a lot of attention to
Where
that
have
stuff.
you seen that? Yeah, I've never seen that.
I don't remember where it was, but I've seen it a couple times and I was like, that's not what that word means.
It's not right.
I'm compiling a list right now of every form I've had to fill out. I have not seen one say Native American. Everything I've seen says American Indian. I have to write to these people
It's
because
just
something
so, like,
it's just
it
wrong.
leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, because not only are they not Indians, but the name Native American is really important because we need to reinforce the fact that they were here first.
Yes.
And they came
for
from
sure.
here. So not only is it important that we don't use the other name, but the name that we call them in our language is a really important name.
Anybody ever says the go back to your country, I'm like, sweetheart, you're white, go back
to your goddamn country.
Go back to your country.
I say that if anyone ever says it's just a name when it comes to, like, you know, the Romani people or the Native Americans, we start calling them a mispronunciation of their name, and if they complain, we go, what, dude, it's just a name.
That's what I said to Charlotte, actually. She was asking me, and she was like, why is it wrong? And I said, well, it's, you know, what if your name was Emily, and I kept calling you Sarah? Like, it's just not who you are.
Yeah, like my name's Eliza. I don't like it when people call me Elise or Elizabeth.
Okay, Elizabeth.
It just like bothers me a little bit. Not a lot, but like enough. And it just kind of shows that you don't care about that person if you don't care to learn when they correct you.
Yeah, for sure.
So
it's also like I see that same argument used with like slurs. And it's always like, oh, it's just a word. It's like, yeah, but where did that word come from? What does it mean? Why do you want to say it? Tell me why. If it's just a word, then why do you feel you have to say it? What's wrong with not saying it if it's just a word?
Yeah.
And some people underestimate it. Words are really very powerful. And slurs especially the N-word, there's a deep and hurtful history behind the word. Black people have reclaimed the word and made it their own because it was so oppressive in the past.
Yeah, much like the word queer.
You're not right.
Yeah.
If you're not a black person and you're saying that word freely, you're not acknowledging that. You're just encouraging how oppressive it was.
Yeah, I agree. And you'd think people would learn, right? You'd think that'd be an obvious thing not to do, but people take it so personally that they can't say one word, and they like it's like, you know how children, if you're like, oh, you can have any kind of ice cream but chocolate, they're like, well, then I want chocolate ice cream. It's like that's a child thing to hear you can't do something and want to do it so much more. Like, what are you, a child? Do you have the maturity of a 7-year-old? Like.
It's always like so childish with some of these people. It's like, hey, could you please have basic human decency and respect my right to exist in this space in which I live? And they're like, no. And
I could, but I won't. You know.
I don't understand it, so therefore it cannot happen. Like I don't understand Korean. It's a real language.
It's like. Carmela can attest to this. We were walking back from a school event, and this senior walked by us, and we hear him drop the F slur. And we almost went, we turned around to follow him, and we're like, not today. Like, it sucks to hear those words when you know their history. It sucks to hear it from people who aren't, like, part of that group of people or part of that community. It can be genuinely hurtful to hear. Some people, it doesn't bother them. It really doesn't. But you don't get to decide who it bothers and who it doesn't bother.
Exactly.
It's just something about it, like, even if they're like, I didn't mean it like that, there's something that just clicks in your brain, you know they meant it.
Yeah.
They're not using it.
It's like, if you
empower people.
It's like if you really didn't mean it, then you would apologize and not use it again.
Yeah.
If you accidentally said it, you go, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I don't think like that," or something. Like if you really didn't mean it, you'd know immediately that you said it and apologize immediately.
Do we want to go into maybe talking about the protests, for example? Just
Oh yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was we got way into
Oh
discussion.
no, it was a great
That was awesome.
conversation.
Yeah.
I just want to get your thoughts on the protests first, and I'm sure you guys will find a way to touch all the bases regarding that.
And Hunter, just so you know, if you guys decide that the podcast is too long, we might not leave the server. We just may keep talking.
Feel free, yeah.
We'll just leave and let you guys stay. We'll come back tomorrow morning and
Yeah,
you
you'll still be here.
guys will still keep going. But
Yeah.
Can I just start off with
Yeah.
the protest thing just by saying how incredible it is that so many kids at our school have been so
my
active
God.
in this fight
Today,
and
I
have gone to the lengths to organize protests for every day of the week.
didn't get to
We
go
just
today.
acknowledge how incredible that is.
We
Today was
organized
great.
today, and I
It
still
was
didn't get to
really
go.
good.
And but I'm so sad. But you guys who showed up,
Yeah.
we didn't expect that many people at all.
I wanted to be there.
And to speak on the one yesterday, which I went to,
Oh my God.
we live, for anyone listening to the podcast, we live in probably one of the whitest places around. We really
Oh,
do.
yeah. For
And
sure.
you drove down Main Street of that town. When I came, it was like we were like 30 minutes late. We drove for a minute and the streets were lined with people. And when we arrived, there were still hundreds of people arriving. I've never
Yeah.
seen anything like it.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, I
for sure.
shared it on my social media, and my friends from my old school shared it, and they came.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
And
happened to me too. There was I put it on my story, and then there was this girl that I used to play soccer with when I was like 11 that responded to my story, and she was like, "Hey, when is this, and where's it gonna be so I can go?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so glad that you're interested." And I told her where it was going to be and what time it was, and then I told her about Jocelyn and Julia's their organization and what they were doing to set it up, and if she had any more questions about it. And it's just it made me feel so good to know that other people are learning these things and like being able to attend them, because people like me and like you guys are like sharing things consistently to like spread information.
I've gotten so first off, among the list of people I found out or saw were at that thing, it was people from my middle school, almost all of the teachers who teach me, my brother's girlfriend's college friends, and my old boss. Like, so many people I knew were there. It was crazy.
Just
But-
Oh, yeah.
this is the
Same.
time.
Yeah, it really is.
You know, it's not really is the time. It's really the time. We have to. I've seen so many of this. You guys already know. It's like we need to keep our feet on the gas, our collective
Oh,
feet
for sure.
on the gas pedals, because this isn't small. We know that there've been protests in the past. Black Lives Matter protests have been going on. 2018 there was a huge one. 2016 there was a huge ones all across the nation. I think it's all about momentum. Momentum. It's golden.
So I see a transition there, and I was wondering if we could transition to talking about like the, I know we know there's a lot of like resistance from people that's like,
Oh, girl, please.
violence
get into it.
isn't the answer. Violent protests don't work. Violence
Absolutely.
isn't ideal.
It works.
Violence is not ideal.
Violence.
But guess what? We, like Simran just pointed out, we have been having protests against race for literal years, and the only ones that have effectively protected the black community and the communities of color were, first off, the Black Panther movement, where, if you're not familiar, the black people took advantage of Oakland and other cities' open carry laws and made it very clear to the police by standing a safe distance away that if they were to use any kind of excessive force against people of color, that they would be interrupted. And the other one was right after, you've probably been hearing a lot about this, right after the death of MLK, there were literal riots, much like we're currently having now. They both were huge game changers in the civil rights community. The Boston Tea Party, the Boston Massacre, they were both huge riots. Stonewall wasn't a pride. Stonewall was 5 days of burning and throwing bricks at the police. And maybe it's not ideal, but those have been the only successful movements in American history because violence and protest is kind of the American way.
Yeah.
I wanna just, of course, I don't like violence. Mahatma Gandhi said non-violence is the answer. I'm gonna listen to him. However, we were talking with Mr. Fetzer this morning, our history teacher, and he just said flat out, rights are not given, they're demanded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're demanding rights. And on the topic of MLK was demonized that day. All the papers, all the white-run, newspapers, media, they demonized him because he was a black man fighting for his rights.
Yeah.
He peaceful. I'm sorry, Eliza. He protested peacefully, and there was also one of my favorites, Malcolm X. Malcolm X, on the other hand, he was also demonized. He actually rioted, and he did use violence, and both of them ended up with bullets in.
Yeah.
So
MLK was probably one of the most peaceful men in a long time. Like, that was his whole thing. They pushed back against him. They were violent towards him. He refused to be violent. We know now that not only was he assassinated, but the FBI sent him letters trying to get him to kill himself. Our government may tell you that they want you to be peaceful, and peace isn't the answer, but peace just makes it easier for them to ignore you.
Yep, for sure.
Okay,
and
may I interject here? I actually want to say something.
Yeah.
Okay, so I agree that violence has worked, and personally, it's really sad that it has. But you can't deny that peaceful protests and peaceful movements did have an effect. Sure, violence is what caught everyone's attention because it's the most charged and it's what makes the news, but peaceful protests do actually affect it. So it's
I know what you're saying.
Violence.
Can I comment on that just quickly? Just historically, I actually agree with that in part because when we're looking at the civil rights movement, contrast of MLK's tactics and Malcolm X's tactics actually bolstered his support, I could say.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing the violent side, you're seeing the side that allows for conversation and the side that is passive. So
there's another example. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
There's another example in the two feminist groups. There were the suffragettes that were like, we're gonna get arrested and spend the night in jail. Yeah, we're gonna take whatever it takes for women to get their rights to vote. And then there was another group of much older women. I think it was what was their name?
CCP?
Yes. And they said, we think that the other feminists are vile. We think that they're too aggressive. We think they don't get the cause. But both of those needed to exist for that to get across. There needed to be the people that really, really wanted to work with the government, and then there also needed to be the people that made the government. If you're looking at our current situation, what we want to do is not just create changes in the way law enforcement is because it's too violent, but they work to, unfortunately, a system of mass incarceration that also needs to be changed, because the point is to fill up those prisons, is to make money. And rich people have proven time and time again, the really rich have proven they will always choose money over human rights. They need to not only have people they're willing to work with and they're of the side they're willing to fight with, but they also need to be partially afraid, or nothing will change. You have to have both.
On that subject, I don't know if to those listening, I would really recommend documentary 13. It's about incarceration.
Yeah.
It's really well done.
Yeah, I started watching that this morning. It's good.
It's available.
We can talk about that for hours, but
yeah.
Is that what you watched last year in history?
Yes.
Yeah, we watched
we watched a part of it. Miss Lambton was woke as hell.
yeah.
Yeah, we watched all of it.
One more thing I just want to say about the nationwide protests is that I personally really don't like violence. I don't want to condone it in any way. However, I do feel that Black people in this country have every right to burn down a city that they built for free.
Yeah.
Like,
That's so
I
true.
hope it doesn't come to that. I do not like violence, but I feel like it's fair at that point because
You know what's frank?
400 years of that, it weighs on the culture.
This movement is smart because we all know that the direction that the media has taken is horrifying right now. We can get into that, but the first protest in Minneapolis, there was violence. The violence was, as far as I know, as far as the sources I've read a multiple, and all of them point to the conclusion that fires were started by the police department. There was looting. There was looting. There was people, smashing cars and things. That's genuine anger, and I don't want that violence to be there. That violence is a minority in the entire scope of protests. I don't know the exact figure. Large majority of protests have been peaceful, as we've been seeing on social media.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
The ones that tend to get out of hand are, and I know people are saying this, but it's legitimately true. The ones that get out of hand are the ones where the cops tend to push it over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've been seeing this. We know this. Like, all
I
of us are.
have friends that went to one of the city protests, and it was absolutely fine until there started to be more resistance from the police. And that's because it was getting darker and they were getting more concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So they started to push back more heavily against the protesters, and the protesters, annoyed with their actions,
Boston,
I heard from a protester in Anchorage, Alaska, who said that I went to a protest today and it was entirely peaceful the entire way through. And do you want to know what the difference between our protest and protests in large cities in the continental United States were? Absolutely nothing. It's just that the police didn't show up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay, so I feel we should address the kind of the horrifying, like, draconian measures that the police are taking with these peaceful protests.
Oh my
God. Like, so-called
Do it,
less
Connor.
than lethal rounds, rubber bullets, wooden bullets, any of those. Any solid projectile shy of that velocity can severely injure and kill, and also flashbang grenades. There's all sorts that can damage your hearing, your sight, cause PTSD. But one of the things that most people don't know is the flash powder in those grenades burns hotter than lava. So if you throw that into a crowd and it lights off on someone, that can severely burn and kill them.
Isn't tear gas illegal?
And tear gas is illegal to be used in wartime against soldiers. But why are we using it against civilians?
Yeah, it's against the Geneva Protocol. I was doing my research on this because I heard about it and I didn't believe it. I did a bunch of research. Yes, the United States, some military sometimes uses these measures and takes it too far. But it's true. We signed the Geneva Convention with many other countries, and it explicitly states tear gas and other, chemical weapons, chemical warfare is not legally allowed to be used against armed military shooting at our soldiers, but we're using it against our own people.
Yep.
I also
Can I just point something out? I'm sorry. The irony in all of this protesting, these are protests started by the death of George Floyd and or abolishment of police brutality, and the police can't stop hitting people.
Yeah, they're responding with brutality.
Another thing I want to point out about, because rubber bullets got brought up, and that made me think about, hey, something I know about rubber bullets, and I believe wooden bullets as well, is not only at such a high velocity that they're being fired at can they seriously injure someone and cause traumatic brain injuries, they're also not supposed to be shot either A, at a point blank range, or B, at a target's face.
Or
they're supposed to be shot onto the ground so that it bounces, like dispersing a little bit of the energy and hitting them in the legs so as to keep them from running.
Also,
So
they're not supposed to be shot anywhere above like the
they're
waist at
they're
all.
supposed to ricochet and hit people in appendages, but they're shooting them directly at people in their heads. Like, of course, people are going to get hurt.
Shows me that really made me think, because the intention is to reduce the effect on the protesters, right? You just want to stall them a bit. But it's the products of the system. These cops are taking the guns up at eye level and firing them.
And, like,
Yeah.
have you
It's
seen the
clearly
videos
the people
of,
need to.
like, I've just seen some videos. These cops look like excited to be shooting.
no, they
people.
do. No, there's
I
videos
know.
of them.
We're seeing
congratulating.
I saw
reports
one where
from New
there's
York.
this person was on their porch and they were just standing on their
I
property,
saw that.
and the police are yelling at them like, "Get the fuck inside!" And when
No.
they perfectly in their right stand on their porch, one of them just goes, "Light them up!" And that's insane.
Yeah.
They're
That's
just like
not what.
they're
and
playing
yes,
war
okay,
games
I will say
with
those
real
are
people.
those were paint rounds,
Insane
but
display of
still.
military power right now.
Yeah,
It's
insane.
all food for Trump,
It's
and
just
it's
like-
making him look worse.
Didn't Trump like tear gas a protest because he wanted the photo op?
So he wanted
Yeah.
That's a big
pictures in
story.
front of a church with a Bible. So he tear gassed a bunch
Um,
of protesters in front of the church
Can I-
who
can
were
I-
peacefully protesting.
Can I
I
add
don't know
a
if you guys
Bible
know.
which he never opened and couldn't quote a single verse from when he was asked in an interview later?
Yeah.
Wow.
They asked him like, what's your favorite verse? And he was just like, well, it's a very he danced around the question basically because I don't think he's read the thing.
He hasn't.
He didn't get permission from that church. Fetz was telling me he's been there. It's a huge open parkway.
Yep.
He didn't get permission from that church. That church specifically condemned him, and now religious leaders all across the nation
Yeah.
condemning him because
They
they
had-
don't support what he's done with their religion.
Well,
they had the priest
Because he's
from
making
that
them look
church.
bad.
They had the priest from that church forcibly removed because I don't remember exactly why, but they had him. They had him removed from the property, which
Is
is
this your religious king? Seriously, guys.
yeah.
All right, and so just quickly, because Carmela's gonna have to leave real soon. You wanted to talk about masks that you're making and the funds
Yes.
that you're raising. Yeah, so if you could touch on that.
So first of all, I want to say that I've noticed a lot of people, like, obviously some of them can't go to protest because, like, just for general safety reasons, maybe they have like asthma and it's too dangerous or something like that, or maybe they're like us and they're a minor and their parents won't let them go. But I was making face masks for because of the pandemic, and like I've been sewing for a while. It's a hobby of mine, and my parents were like, "Hey, do you think you could make us cloth face masks to protect us when we go to like the stores and stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, I could try to do that." And I found some patterns. I think Eliza, you gave me one.
I think so. Yeah.
And so I found some of them and I started making them. And I think at this point I've made upwards of 50 or 60. And I was like, I was noticing all of this stuff happen, like on the news and on social media and everything. And I was like, wow, I'm really upset that I don't have a job anymore because I worked in a restaurant before everything closed and I didn't have a job, and so I didn't have any money, and I was really upset because I was like, wow, I really wish I could donate to the organizations that are like making a difference, because I couldn't really go out and protest either. And then I realized I've been making a product for a couple months, and it's something that people need in general to be safe when they leave their house, and it felt disingenuous to capitalize off of a need for things, so I didn't like charge people for them. And then I realized if I wanted to donate money, that it would be a good thing for me to do, for me to sell the masks and then not keep any of the money but donate all of it to these organizations that were like making a difference. And I didn't expect it to take off the way it did, but I'm very, very glad about it, because a lot of people have been like really, really supportive, and a lot of the people that have donated money, I think like 90% of the people that have donated more than the amount of money I was asking for each mask. Like, I only ask like $2 per one because I want it to be accessible. I don't want people to have to spend a ton of money on something that they need. And I was only asking for like $2 per, and then people would be like asking me for like 2 or 3 masks, and then they'd pay me $20 for those 3, which really surprised me and made me really happy because I'm glad that I can do my part and like essentially put my money where my mouth is and actually donate the way I wanted to, because I know for me as a white person, it's one thing it's like really the bare minimum for me to say like, oh, you should like educate yourself and like be active in supporting these people, but I wanted to do something more because it felt like I was being performative, even though I know I'm not, but I just don't want it to come across that way. So I wanted to like put my money where my mouth is and donate to these causes, and I think this is a really great way to do it, and I'm glad that it's happening.
Quick
Yeah,
thing.
that's great. Where can so where could people find this?
Okay, so I have an Instagram. It is
Can we link
it's
that in the
Carmela
description?
Davies.
That might be easier.
It's
That's
my
Rowan's job.
my first name and then a nickname that I have combined with my last name. It's CarmelaJayvie.
Carmela, can we link it in the description? That might be easier, if you're okay with that.
In YouTube, we can, not all places, I think.
We'll link it. But it is a private account, so you will have to request to follow me beforehand. But
She's getting fired.
selling face masks, they're $2 each, and all of the money that is gained by the selling of these face masks will go to one of a few charities.
Nice.
And those charities are the Minnesota Freedom Fund, the Mass Bail Fund, the Black Visions Collective, the official Black Lives Matter organization and their charity fund. And because it is Pride Month and I care a lot about LGBT issues, as I myself am bisexual, the Trevor Project, which is an LGBT charity that aims to prevent suicide in LGBT youths. So if you're interested, yeah.
And I just want to say, I got 4 masks from her like a few days ago, and they're so nice. One of them has little lemons on them. They're so cute.
That's my favorite fabric. I love it so much.
It's so cute. I like
So
the red
awesome.
one with the white stars too.
Oh yeah.
Well, it must feel so good. Like, I know, just giving back in any way, even if it's small, like, you're doing a great job.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
so proud of you.
Oh, and just to add to Carmela's thing, because you forgot to say, you can do Venmo, PayPal, or proof of donation.
Yes,
Listen, I
thank
dream
you.
truck going by.
It's
That's
really,
important.
really easy to do this.
Can you guys hear that?
What'd you say?
Literally an ice cream truck going by my
Oh
house.
my god.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I think that
So
little bit of what I'm doing will be my egress. So I will see you guys later. And
Thank you so much.
Bye.
That might be
have a
working
happy
off.
Pride, I guess.
Hey, happy
Great job
Pride.
with the masks.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for.
Thank you so
joining
much
us.
for having me.
It's our pleasure. Yeah, just
All right, bye y'all.
great guest.
Bye.
So goodbye.
I'm pissed because there's something excuse my language. There's something I want to talk to her about, but I guess I'll talk to you guys about it. So, well,
Can I
think we
actually
should-
just...
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to... She got me all excited. No, but my sister and I were able to do a donation through actually Insta stories. And and my mom's company matched the donations. So basically, if you donated $1, the company would match and make it $2. So we donated, raised like $118.
Goddamn.
Got about $1,500. My mom raised she donated to $700.
Wow.
Like $1,400, and I was so happy. It was all you guys,
That's
the
incredible.
Swedish kids, Cape kids, my sister's college friends.
Yeah, that's
It's
amazing.
just all these people who just wanted to help.
Yeah.
It made me really happy.
Yeah.
I think that, just to completely ignore what I was going to talk about before, I think that where money goes is really important because we can push to change our criminal justice systems. We can push to change the way we police. We can push to change all kinds of things. We should be changing education. But what's really important is that what makes it much easier for the government and just the way our country works to target people of color is because they've been screwed over by our country, so they generally live in specifically poor communities with higher rates of crime because they don't make as much money. They don't get offered as many good positions. So I think that not only donating to these organizations, but there are a lot of lists that are probably going around on social media that are like Black-owned restaurants and businesses in your town. And the best way to permanently fix this problem is to put money into the individuals and the communities. And I can give you 1,000 different things that 1,000 different Black-owned businesses online. One of them's called Juvia's Place. It's like a makeup brand that's it's better than the ones you hear about. It's a really, really nice makeup brand with a really wide range of products.
Oh, I've heard of it. Yeah. Actually.
Yeah, there are a few like that, and I just think that's an important thing to research because that's really important. Is where your money goes. Financial boycotts and speaking with your money legitimately changes things.
Sorry, I forgot to mention before, just the money that everybody raised went to the NAACP LDF fund, which is basically the fund that hire lawyers, and they also involve themselves with the bail fund process. So the lawyers that are going to be put on police brutality cases, murder cases, we funded that. So, everyone.
Also, I just want to say, I've seen this online. A bunch of lawyers have been volunteering themselves to do work pro bono for people who have been arrested. For protesters.
There's a National Lawyers Guild, which is volunteer lawyers, and they're educating people. I mean, I was just on a virtual meeting with a bunch of people and a lawyer from that guild who was talking about protester rights, what the police are going to try and do. To what you should and shouldn't talk about to cops once you've been arrested. And they're doing a lot of great work. They're really backed up. So the thing is, the encouragement is if you can afford to pay for your own lawyer or give money to the charities, they encourage you to do it. But their goal is truly just for people to be able to protest safely, which is something we are legally allowed to do and not be charged for it. Yeah.
Just interrupt, actually.
Go ahead.
As I will have to leave too in 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay. I think a good amount of us are getting close to having to go.
Yeah.
So
we're also running about an hour, so
there is one more thing I want to bring up.
Awesome, yeah.
Okay,
go ahead.
One last note that we end on.
So there throughout our history have been a lot of icons of the human rights movements, like Malcolm X is one of them. And through this, there has been a return of a lot of those icons. The first one you probably know is Anonymous, who is a hacker group that is encouraging protesters by doing things like shutting down the Chicago Police Department's radios so they can't, communicate aggressively about protests. But there have been two really, really interesting things I'm seeing from the protests. One of them is there are actually people dressed in full Black Panther gear that are out there. It's incredible. They literally look like the Black Panthers you see in history books.
I literally love the Black Panther.
It's literally incredible. I teared up when I saw the photos.
The second one, Batman at the protest. That was the best video I've ever seen. There's smoke going on, and he's just walking through the smoke. It's amazing.
I love that. But the last thing, and I found out about this today on TikTok because I've been off the app a lot because it just I'm not on it as much. So I miss out on this whole section of videos that are just people posting videos that go viral from the protests. And they're of these 4 people called the Spec Ops. And I don't know if you've heard of them, but basically they're people in full gas masks, tear gas masks and bulletproof armor. They're all black and they've got one of them has a picture of Anonymous. They're very iconic. There's photos of them protecting protesters, throwing tear gas back at the cops, walking through tear gas. Yeah. There are 4. They are called a Tank, who's 8 feet tall. He's literally so tall. and then Riot, who's the one with he's very iconic.
They have
He's
names?
got
Oh my
but
God.
protesters have named them because they're just
Wow.
these iconic like protester protectors. I think they're from
So
DC. Riot's got like I think he's the one that has like visible dreads that you can see through his suit, and then the picture of Anonymous, and then there are 2 unphotographed ones. One they're calling Alpha, and then one female who goes by 2 names, Athena and Scales, and they're literally
Why is
just
this
like
so epic?
they're literally like they look like
so cool.
they look like heroes you'd see in movies. They're
Yeah.
incredible. I'll send pictures so you can see what they look like if you're watching on listening on YouTube. They're actually incredible.
Yeah, I saw a video of
Really?
what was the big guy you said he was called, like Tank? I saw a video of him and
Yeah.
he is so
He's
so
huge.
cool.
There's a video of him walking around like poking cops in the badges, and he
Yeah.
has to bend all
And
the
they
way
look
down to
terrifying.
face level with them.
They look terrified. It's
incredible.
amazing.
They're actually incredible. Like literally,
They
they're
look like a Dark
they're
Souls
like
boss.
superheroes. They're crazy.
It's
Is
amazing.
this a science fiction?
No, I know, right? Like. I like didn't believe it. I was like,
A
that's
foreign
not
dystopia.
real. But
It's
the
kinda
videos
cool.
are all over of these.
Guys, just now, this is really a revolution.
Yeah,
It really
it's
is.
getting there.
Yeah, this is big, and I think this is a good spot to end on, seeing as though we've gone for quite a while and had some really good discussion.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
this
it was
was
good.
really great.
Absolutely.
Honestly, there's so much more to talk about as well.
Oh my god, yeah.
Crazy. We just went on for over an hour, and there's still so much more. But we're gonna have to save that for another time. And thank you to you, Simran, Eliza, and Mia for all being
Thank
here
you.
and joining
It
us as
was really
guests.
awesome.
Yeah, it was
To
amazing.
Carmela, who's already left. But if she's watching this back, or just in general, thank you for coming. You guys were all great guests today, and it was really just a pleasure to have you
Thank you
here.
guys. It was really awesome conversation. I loved it.
I'm so
Yeah.
glad that we did this.
Mhm.
I
And
think there's a certain level of like some people just don't quite get it, because they're not as involved, and I think that people shouldn't be left out of the conversation.
for sure.
Yeah.
And Lyle, Rowan, Xander, and Connor, thank you as well for being here.
You're welcome.
Um,
Thanks for being here, Hunter.
Yeah, thank you
thanks
for
for being
thanking me.
Thanks for
So,
inviting me.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank me.
yeah,
Thank me.
Of course.
Sorry.
So, and to the viewers, thank you for watching. Please, the first person to comment gets a thumbs up from us, because
A thumbs up from all of us, like not just
Yeah,
Hunter.
no.
We all give
Oh,
you a
yeah,
thumbs
everyone
up.
here.
we'll
all
all
of
go
The
into our
comment
personal
can say
YouTube
anything.
accounts and give you a like.
I mean,
At
well, if
least,
it's not funny,
5
we'll ban
likes.
you.
It will be insane. It's gonna make your day. It's gonna make our day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Do it.
give it a like, give it a subscribe or whatever.
Give us a hit.
That way you can stay up to date. We like to put out videos every week. So thank you for watching this one, and hope to see you in the next one.
Close.
Yay!
Nice.